All right, so I'll start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Abhishek Jain. I'm pleased to invite you all to the second episode of the KYO series, No Restrictions for Studying ICT at PlanTogether. In this session, we will be covering a Bachelor of Architecture degree. Today, we are very fortunate to have with us Akhila Kosaraju, a graduate of the 2019 batch of IIT Kharagpur with a Bachelor of Architecture degree. She was also selected as the national representative from India by the Indian Institute of Architects to represent the country in the 13th Asian Congress of Architects at Tokyo. She is currently working as a project architect with architecture. In this session, Akhila will be speaking in detail on pursuing a Bachelor of Architecture, what it entails, and the various opportunities and career options that it opens up for completion. I would now like to hand it over to Akhila to begin the session.
Thank you, Abhishek. Hi, everyone. Today, I think I'll talk a bit about uh, uh, what opportunities a degree in architecture brings and what a career in the field might be like. So, first, I'd like to go over a few things in terms of who should apply for the course and what particularly is the area of interest that BIAC brings. So, firstly, I think BIAC is something that anyone who's creatively oriented can pursue and who's interested to build things. Though it's a degree that specializes in terms of built spaces. I think I feel personally that it brings about a lot of opportunities in various allied fields as well. So the thing in architecture is that there are multiple scales, so you can work with from small bus stops or public toilets to large scale townships and even urban design. So so particularly I feel that anyone who's interested in working in the build space should take up architecture. And personally, okay, what were my personal motivations as a student to opt architecture were so I was like I have been a very creatively oriented person, but I've also been a person who wants to build stuff and who likes to tinker with things and stuff. So even though like I had initially prepped for engineering, I had prepped for JE. Um when it was finally the time to choose what sort of a course I was going to take up, I felt like architecture would be the best opportunity for me, and that's what I pursued and I'm pursuing as well. So first, if we begin from what all what are the particular requirements that you need to be eligible for applying for architecture in various colleges. I think in India, majorly there are three exams that you can give. One is NATA. Uh, NATA, as far as I know, has two sections. One is of drawing and sketching, and another is basic aptitude and logical reasoning. And the other two are JEE Mains and JEE Advanced. So JEE Mains gives you this JEE Mains paper 2, that is. JEE Mains paper 1 is for engineering in NITs. I'm not exactly aware of the format right now. Um, JEE Mains paper 2 is basically to get into SPAs, and SPAs are the schools of planning and architecture, and NITs for architecture. And if you want to pursue architecture in IITs, you will have to qualify JEE Mains paper 1 as well, then give advanced, and once you qualify uh, advanced, then you will have to give an additional uh, test called the AAT, qualifying which you get an admission for architecture. So you need to qualify JE for pursuing architecture in an IIT. But so so this is for NITs and IITs, and NATA gives you is an exam where you get a score and a ranking through which you can apply to multiple colleges for architecture. So colleges accept your NATA score, and based on your ranking, you can get an admission. Um, so, what are my perspectives on pursuing a bachelor degree in at IIT Kharagpur? So for me personally, I think it was a very sweet spot in terms of art and technical skills combining together. Um, architecture at I would not compare architecture pursuing architecture in another college with an architecture at IIT or NIT, because the kind of environment is quite different in terms that I would just like to briefly tell you about my experience. So because I was from Kharagpur, I was able to take up multiple courses, not just in architecture, but economics or civil engineering, or there are people who've taken maths and computing and things like that. So there's a more wide variety of options that you can pursue. Um, so architecture is actually quite technical, apart from the poetry of the design that generally people talk about. Um, at Kharagpur, I was able um, the exposure that I got was mainly technical in terms of structures or all the technical details sort of thing. And the plus point that I felt was that there was a wide exposure to multiple other fields. I have batchmates who are working as business analysts or data analytics uh, managers and developers who actually pursued architecture. So, and also another very plus point that I felt was the exposure to the startup ecosystem, which you must be, known, which is quite known from the ITs. Um, apart from that, we have exposure to all other things like going to NASA and Zonasa or applying to other studios as well for architecture. And some of the skills, okay, what are the skills and opportunities that are acquired on the completion of BR? So, personally, I feel that architecture is a field which the course in itself, BR, actually equips you to acquire multiple skills. So it could be the thing is that if you pursue a BR course, you have the opportunity to delve into multiple fields. So you can either be an architect who designs or who wants to get your own studio and design your own buildings and stuff, or you could get into allied fields as well. So there are two kind of fields you can get into. One is within the built space, built environment itself. So it could be interior design, furniture design, or it could be project management, coordination, lead in IGBC consultation or BIM consultation, and real estate as well. So there are multiple sort of things that you can get into through this degree. And if you're not in if you realize at the end of 5 years that probably designing buildings is not what I want to do, you can still get into UI UX design or product design or art curation, film and photography. So the what I would like to say is that the BR course in itself, um, it equips you with a way of thinking. So you develop a sort of design sense and perseverance, and um, you you develop this sort of analytical thinking that helps you in get into multiple fields. So I think it's a very good opportunity. And yeah, if we come to the career expectations of pursuing a bachelor's in architecture, um, so these were the what I talked about. The allied fields is something that you can get into, and um, at the beginning of me pursuing a B.Arch degree, it wasn't very like I didn't really have a very clear idea in terms of what I wanted to do. I knew that I that this course was something that would help me design and also like build something. It would like manifest into something physical. So that was something which was very interesting to me. But now, once since I'm done with the course and I'm also still pursuing architecture, I I understand that it's not something. The thing is that you can pursue multiple things. So even though I'm a full time architect at Bhumiputra Architecture, I'm also I'm uh, the co-founder of of a digital design studio called What If Design. So over there, I work on multiple digital design sort of aspect. So it could be designing apps or websites or graphic design, managing social media, multiple things like that. So one thing I would feel is that it's something where you don't need to restrict yourself to it. Um, so I feel that BIAC opens up to multiple opportunities. So you can figure out what you what like through the 5 years that you go through it. Uh, I'd also like to talk about a few common myths that people generally have, that architecture is only for artistic people, or you need to be really good at sketching or drawing for being an architect. I'd like to say that in today's day and age that is not entirely true. Even though like you initially you develop, and sketching might help you think in a way, it's not absolutely essential to be good at drawing, because since we have all the required softwares these days, it's absolutely all right if you're not good at it, but have a liking towards it is still okay. And as I mentioned, there are multiple allied fields in architecture, so you can get into something very technical, like it like what I said in terms of project management or BIM consultation, or lead consultation. So these are very technical things where you can manage stuff without actually designing things. So you'd be coordinating with contractors and vendors and to get things done and executed, rather than being a designer who actually drafts and creates the entire concept of whatever project it is. um, Another thing which this is not for architecture per se, but just that for getting into architecture in IITs, generally people say that you don't need to give JEE. That's not true. You need to get into JEE, clear that first. Then you need to give an additional test, qualifying which, based on your rank, you get an admission. Another thing which is quite common, this might not be very known to people who have not enrolled yet, but mostly to current students, is that there's very less money in architecture, or there's no money in architecture. It is true that as a fresher and as an intern, or or someone who's starting up by themselves, it would be a kind of a struggle to get to a certain point. But the thing is that this uh, career and this sort of field is such that the the growth is exponential after a point. So for you to get to that point takes a bit of time, and a lot of people don't have that sort of patience. Initially, the thing is that there is a vicious cycle in our country for for architects, for architectural fees and the wages in the community. So it's generally quite low. But once you start handling your own projects and start handling clients directly, it's a very good field to be in. So I would say that if a person, if you are really interested in getting into this field, it would be a good idea if you want to um, be an entrepreneur and get your own studio or handle your own clients, or you can also freelance. But yeah, that is sort of a thing that would probably be more sustainable for a person. um, so there's no need to worry, but the only issue is that there might be a little bit of starting trouble. um, I think those are the common myths that I know of. Some general tips that um, students who want to pursue a career in architecture should. So one thing I would definitely say is that you shouldn't be rigid at all. You might take up the course, or get into the uh, degree, university, or whatever it is, for that sort of, like, with a mindset that you are going to be an architect, and this, you are going to build buildings, and this is what you're going to do. But it's but I would say that you should not be very rigid in terms of what you want to do. It's a very good thing to have a direction, but uh, a lot of the course and a lot of multiple experiences shape your thinking. And I've known people who are architects, like who have graduated from uh, architecture, and who are building playgrounds for underserved children, and you know which is amazing. They've built like 200 playgrounds in less than 2 years, which is amazing. And I've also known people who are working on AI and machine learning for generating code that can, I mean, for generating design that could potentially map our cities in the best possible way. So I would say that it's a very broad um, course that can give you a lot of different outlets, or it can generate very different directions of thinking. So don't be too rigid in terms of that this is what I want to do, and this is exactly like just want to design houses, or I just want to get into interior design. It's a very good thing if you can. 5 years is a long time, so I would say that it would be very good if you can experiment with multiple forms of design and try to understand what is your niche, what would be the best fit for you, and then go ahead with that. Of course, there's compulsory internships and stuff for most colleges in the final year, or at least for 6 months. So you can decide what sort of thing in the architectural field, or at least in the built environment space, that you would like to do if you keep experimenting before that. And then that would, give you a much informed decision for you to move ahead towards the direction that fits for you the best. Another thing I would definitely say is that for a student for a person who wants to enroll and into the course, that it's a very rigorous course. You need you should expect a lot of long and long nights. Most of us go to sleep at 6 and 7 a.m. So, and this works even after college. So, that's kind of a, uh, what do you say, norm. It's not something we're proud of, but something that just happens along the way. Uh, there are ways you can work around it as well, definitely, for sure. But this is something that I think it's quite common in terms of design school in itself, and not particularly to architecture. So that's another thing. And another thing I'd like to say is that, since I talked about the low wages when you start off or as an intern, it's a bit difficult for you to sustain yourself. So I would definitely say that you should try and uh, go ahead, experiment with multiple things, and try to probably freelance or generate alternate sources of income, which can help you be more stable in terms of experimenting later on. That once you graduate, you might still have a little bit of leeway to see what else works for you. So speaking from personal experience, I had started freelancing in graphic design. Um, I think in my second year of college, and that was something that has been continuing, and which led to co-founding the digital design studio that I was talking about. But it gave me a lot of freedom in terms of pursuing what I want to, or multiple things. Um, Another thing I would like to say is that architecture is also a profession where you get to experience a lot of things. Like me personally, I was able to visit 5 countries in uh, during my undergraduate, um, through either through internships or conferences and stuff. And these sort of exposure and experiences that you get um defines and kind of orients a way of thinking that helps you design much better. It makes you more empathetic with multiple cultural backgrounds and settings. And you also get the opportunity to visit spaces that have been built by the like star architects and the great master architects. So I would like to say that try to experiment and go ahead, apply to multiple places, and be able to try to travel as much as you can, because, as I said, it gives you a perspective that sitting in the classroom doesn't really give you. So that's, I think, mostly it. Um, yeah. Abhishek, if there's any other question that you want me to answer, I'm happy to.
Thank you so much, Akila. I think that was a wonderful session, and you've covered in detail as to what a B.Arch course actually entails. I just have two very, very short questions.
Yeah.
So, my first question actually is that a lot of students in their 11th or in their 12th grade would find themselves, let's say, fascinated or interested in designing or in design work.
Yeah.
How exactly do you think that they could better make a decision between the B arc as compared to the B desks?
Okay. I'd like to. Shortly, I'd like to give you a brief introduction of both the courses. So, the B.Arch is a 5 year course, which gives you, which is designed to, which is curated to make you an architect of built spaces. That means both of these courses helps you design. The thing in BDES is that it has multiple manifestations of design, but architecture, it orients you towards the physical built spaces of it. When you come to BDES, I think it's a 4 year course, if I'm not mistaken. And you get to experiment with multiple forms of design, be it product design or graphics and communication or UI UX. So you can specialize in one particular thing, probably, but it gives you an overall systems thinking approach, which is uh, so it's more towards a human centered approach of designing products and services. So it can even be, user research oriented and stuff. So the BDES does not have a particular outcome to it in terms of what you want to do. You kind of, understand through the course what sort, like, what you like to do, and you can get into one particular field. While the BIAC is more oriented towards build spaces for sure. And the BIAC also gives you the license to be an architect. So once you complete it, you can register yourself at the Council of Architecture, which gives you the right to build or to design a building, which does not happen with the BDES. Uh, Coming to, so if so I would suggest that if any of you have been like have already experimented with multiple things in your school doing different stuff, and if you're sure that this is something that I want to do in terms of um, say, like uh, you're trying to design apps, or you are sure that you want to get into graphic design or something, then I think the BDES might be a better option. But if you're more oriented towards actually building stuff, and you know if you want to see your buildings come up and want want to experience that sort of thing, I would definitely say that BARC is a very good viable option.
Thank you so much, Akhila. I think that answers my question. I think my last question is actually a little related to something that you also spoke about.
Yeah.
How do you think a student at 12th could be absolutely sure that they want to get themselves into a BArch, especially given that it's a 5 year course and it's a very big commitment as an undergrad? So,
Yeah.
how do you think that they could be 100% sure that, okay, this is something that I want to do and this is something I want to prepare for?
Okay. um I would say that if there is a student per se who's confused between BDES and BARC, uh, the 11th, so for me, I had quite a hectic 11th and 12th standard since I was preparing for JE. But if you're actually preparing, if you want to give if you're preparing for BDES or a BARC, your high school will not be as hectic as, say, if you're prepping for some other field. So I would really encourage, I know this sort of culture is not yet very prevalent in India, but I would definitely encourage you to travel to a few places uh, where um, So if you are inclined towards BR, I would say if you do a basic Google uh, search on what the best designed spaces in India are, or buildings and things that are that have been built by the you know grandmasters of architecture, at least from India, you'll get a list of buildings. I would definitely say you should go and visit a few of them, whichever is closest to you, and it would give you a perspective that you might not have had before. Say, like, if you could visit one of Charles Korea's buildings, or B.V. Doshi's, or uh, you uh, Louis Khan's, anything. So it would probably put an effect on you, if, like, probably might help you decide. Also, if you another way of approaching this would be trying to visit colleges that have these different courses, and try to understand from current students and professors what might be the best fit for you, or ask them about their experiences so that you can relate to it in terms of what they wanted to do and what they're experiencing in their course. You could Another option for this would also be that you could probably try and volunteer to work for a studio, or if you have any contact, that would be the best way to experience how the actual profession in it works. So during one of my internships, I had a summer internship in Sri Lanka, and over there, when I was there for 2 months, and 1 month of it there was another intern who was pre-university. That is, she was prepping for getting into architecture, and she just wanted to understand how a studio works, and how things how the workflow of actually bringing a building to life works. So she obviously she wasn't paid, or she wasn't really able to grasp a lot of things in 1 month, which is quite a short time in terms of architecture, because the span of projects is much larger compared to uh, graphics or a UI UX project. So so she was able to understand that, and then she was able to make a much better choice in terms of where she wanted to go and what she wanted to pursue. So that is one way you can do it. But this all of this requires some sort of grit, and uh, understanding. Even obviously, your parents need to be flexible enough to let you try out these stuff. But considering that you are planning for a BArch or a BDES course, I would definitely say that you should try one of these methods, since the preparation time, or the amount of hours that you need to put in, is less compared to your other peers who are pursuing other fields, say commerce or engineering, or MBBS, or I don't know, law. So yeah.
Yep, thanks for that, Akhil. I think that's a very, very interesting way of actually trying to make a decision of whether this is something you would like or not. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that brings me to the end of this session. So I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of Team Plant for taking out some time to actually come for this session. Thanks once again, Akhila.
Thank you, thanks a lot. You guys are doing a very good job in taking this initiative.
Thank you. Thank you once again.